The Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Utah Jazz the other night, 131 to 101. The biggest headline of that game was that they were able to win without SGA. He didn't play in that game, and they still won despite him not playing by a very huge margin. And now a lot of people are using this win to spin it by saying the Thunder are a super team and SGA just has way too much help. I feel the haters are using it in a way to discredit SGA's greatness, saying that he has just too much help and basically signaling that he doesn't deserve another MVP, despite him having a great MVP season again this year with leading OKC to the best record. I think it's foolish to discredit SGA for having a great season. He's a huge reason why OKC is 23-1 right now. He played in 23 out of those 24 games. He got them 22 out of those 23 wins. He carried the team when Jalen Williams was out for most of the season to start with. Jalen Williams has only played 5 games. Normally, when you lose your second best player, you tend to hit a slump. You don't tend to play as great as OKC has without Jalen Williams. That their record has been ridiculous. They've only had one loss without him, which was their only loss of the season. SGA has done a great job in carrying this team. I know some people are going to say, like, well, he has a lot of help. He has Chet Holmgren. He has Isaiah Hartenstein before Hartenstein got hurt, who was playing at a high level. And he has now Jalen Williams, who's come back. He also has a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, Lou Dort, who's a great defensive player. And then he has a lot of good role players who are averaging double figures in AJ Mitchell, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. He also has another great defensive player in Alex Caruso. Yeah, I hear it, that people are going to make the excuse that because OKC is a really deep team, that he should be discredited for his greatness, but I don't think that's right. SGA is the guy who makes it all work. Without him, this team goes nowhere. He's like the engine of the team, as they would say. But I think it's disingenuous to discredit him by saying that they are a super team. And I would say, I know this is controversial because OKC could end up winning 73, 74 games, and some people will say I'm crazy for saying this, but they're not a super team. In my eyes, they don't qualify to be a super team. The way I define it, I think everybody's definition of a super team is different. I know some people will say the 90s Bulls were super teams, but to me, they weren't. A super team has to have, in my eyes, at least two guys who can be MVP level players who are like competing for the MVP every year. You have to at least have that. And then you have to have a third guy who's a perennial all-star. So let's look at the most recent Warriors super team with Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson. You can easily say that Durant and Stephen Curry were both MVP caliber players when they were playing together. They were probably top 5 players in the league. And then you had Klay Thompson, who was a legit perennial all-star, top 20, maybe fringe top 10, like number 10 or 11 during the time he was healthy with the Warriors. That, to me, was a legit super team. It was very unfair that they had two MVP caliber players playing with each other in their primes. That was bullshit. That definitely was. That was a super team. There was just no way to really, really guard against those guys since they were both on the same floor. I would say the Heatles were a super team back when LeBron first joined them during the first few years when Wade was healthy. When Wade was still healthy, he was right at the tail end of his prime. He was still a legit superstar, still a guy that could compete for like the MVP of the league. And then you have him playing with prime LeBron James right at the start of LeBron's prime. So those two guys were like MVP caliber players during their first 3 years together in Miami. And then you had Chris Bosh, who was a legit perennial all-star, a guy who was getting to the all-star game every year, a 2010 player. That was a super team. That was a super team in my eyes. Another example of a super team, I would say, was the Boston Celtics with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen during Kevin Garnett's first 2 years there. His first year there, I think they won like 67, 68 games. His second year there, they won like 63, 64 games. That was a super team because those three guys are still in their primes. Garnett was a top 5 player in the league still at that time. And then you had Paul Pierce, who was a legit superstar. Maybe not compete for the MVP, but to me, he was a legit superstar at that time. And then you had Ray Allen, who was, you can make the case, also still a superstar at that time. That was a super team. And then they had the depth. That to me was a super team. Now, when I look at OKC, obviously SGA is competing for another MVP, but I wouldn't say Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren are superstars. Maybe one of them can become a superstar eventually, but I don't think either of those two guys are there. Now, I will say they're all-star caliber players, and they're playing at a high level this year, especially Chet Holmgren. He's having a great season, averaging 18.6 points, 8.1 rebounds. So he's having a really good year. Jalen Williams, he's having a pretty good year, 17.8 points per game, 6.4 assists, 5.2 rebounds. He's been all around a really good player, 1.2 steals. But I wouldn't say these are superstar numbers. I wouldn't say he's suddenly an MVP caliber player. So no, I wouldn't say that this is a super team. They're lacking the second legit superstar who can compete for an MVP, and then the third guy who could be a perennial all-star. Now, I do think both Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren can be perennial all-stars, but neither of them are superstars. Maybe one of them will become one eventually. So I don't believe this is a super team. Now, some people wonder, why are they winning so many games? And well, this is a testament to, I would say, firstly, SGA's greatness. I'm going to be fair and say he's the best player in the league right now. I'm going to put him at number 1. I'm going to put Jokic at number 2. I'm doing it because he was able to defeat Jokic last year in the playoffs, so that gave him the title of best player in the league. Now, Jokic can get it back if he can somehow defeat this Thunder team. So he's just the best player in the league. That's just fair enough to say that. That's why they're so damn good. And then you pair him up with 2 legit all-star players in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, along with a bunch of good role players. And that's why you have a team that wins a lot of games. They also have a great system, and they're clicking on all cylinders. And this is why they're dominating. That's really what it is. But I wouldn't say that they're a super team. I still think they can be upset in the playoffs. Granted, I only think there's one team out there I think that can defeat them in a 7-game series, which is the Denver Nuggets. But we'll see. They are a great team. They should be respected. But no, I would not call them a super team just to discredit SGA's greatness. But that's all I had to say about this.